Welcome to a guide to the new multi-step hay making, better grass handling on Seasons 19 on console with me, MrSealyp. Okay then, grass handling with Seasons on. We have better grass handling now. There's a new multi-step drying process. As you can see, it's bucketing down with rain. Now, again, if you're new to all of this, grass that's cut, even grass that's put under cover will rot. Every night at midnight it will lose a little bit if you leave it on the ground. Bales will start to decrease unless they're wrapped. But here's the thing, there's an extra step been thrown in with regard to grass. Normally when you cut grass, it leaves the grass on the ground and it's like a dark green colour. That was cut grass, that's all there was. Then if you tedded it, you got hay, it was a lighter colour, and then you could bale hay and do whatever you wanted to it. Well, what we've got now is an extra one added in. So what used to be the grass colour is now wet grass. It's considered wet grass, and if I open up my Wopster, which is there, if you don't know what that is, that's in, let's put that away. We find that under miscellaneous, and this will help you out with bales and crops and all sorts of stuff. I kind of mentioned it in a couple of other videos, but if you haven't watched them, you might only be watching this one. I already own the item, but the MT9 Lizard MT9 is a measuring tool. You can get information on soil, trees, bales and other objects. So you buy one of those, turn it on, press circle, typically. What is going on? There we go. So we're on a grass field. It's 100% grown, 67% fertilised, but that 23% there, that's the crop moisture. Anything above 20% with grass is wet grass. It's raining, it's wet. When you cut that, you're going to get wet grass on the ground. That's a darker green. That's what was the standard cut grass. To make hay, you're going to need to ted that. If it's wet, it's going to need to be tedded to make it into dry grass. Well, while it's still raining, that's not going to help. Wet grass, when you cut it, will stay on the ground and won't start to rot for 2 nights. It's what it says here in my notes. When cutting wet grass, it needs to be tedded. It will need to be then dried in the sun. That's fine. Freshly mown wet grass will not rot before the 2nd night after mowing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to mow this. We're going to mow one strip of it anyway. So let's turn that on and that on. So as we go over, that is considered now wet grass. That is the texture we've always had for grass before, but that is wet grass. If you use the Wopster on cut grass, it won't have any effect whatsoever. If we're going to turn that into hay, that has to be tedded to turn it into dry grass before we do anything else with that. But I just wanted to show you that texture first. We'll do a strip on that. Let's turn that off, and let's turn that off. So what we need to do now is wait for the rain to stop, because if we try and ted that now, it's still going to be wet grass because it's still raining. So we need the rain to stop, and then we'll need to ted that to turn that into dry grass. At the moment we can't do anything with it. Once we have got the rest of the grass field dry, I'll show you then what happens next. But so as it stands at the moment, we have just cut wet grass and we've got wet grass on the ground. That's the first thing you need to know. Okay, it's the next day. Unfortunately we've got a little bit of growth that's come through here, but this is still wet grass on the floor that we cut yesterday. Until 2 nights have gone by, that won't start to rot away, and that's a darker colour. But what we have got now is, because we're in late summer, if I put the Wopster on now, there we go. So the grass now is dried out. it's on 17% moisture, which means it's below 20%. That's considered dry grass, whereas before it was wet grass and it was raining, and you can see it's darker there. We've now got dry grass. So what we're going to do is turn that on, turn that on. I'm going to cut the grass. Now, as you can see already, dry grass being cut is way lighter than the wet grass to its left. That is the colour the hay used to be. This is not hay, this is dry grass. So this is the extra stage we've got. We've got a wet grass cut, we've got a dry grass cut. Now the difference here is the dry grass I can leave. I can leave that in the sun, hopefully with a bit of wind. We'll just check the menu. If you look at right at the bottom where it says drying potential and you look at wind speed, the wind speeds are up around 7s, 6s, high 6s, 7s. Drying potential, you've got plus. You've got a couple of zeros there where it goes overnight, then pluses again. If you get double pluses, that's even better. That means it will dry way quicker. But what that means is, with the temperatures, the wind speed, and the drying potential is good. So if I just leave this dry grass on the floor now, that will turn into hay on its own. That will automatically become hay, provided we don't have rain again. If we have rain again, that will start to rot away, which we don't want. The difference is with this, the wet grass, if I leave that in the sun, that's not going to do anything. I need to do something to that to turn the wet grass into dry grass. To do that, I need to ted. It kind of makes the tedder a little bit more relevant now, in so much as we used to ted before to make hay, but now we actually have to use it to make dry grass before the dry grass can turn into hay. So what we'll do, let's finish off this strip. And then hopefully what we'll see, I'm going to use the tedder to ted the wet grass. I mean, you can see the difference, the wet and the dry. I mean, it's night and day, you know, even though you've got the bit of growth through there. So what I'm going to do now, let's turn that off, turn that off. Lift that and fold it out of the way. So what I'm going to do now is on the other one, turn on the tedder. So we're going to go over the wet grass and tedding it. That, we're not making hay. What we're doing now, we're making dry grass. If you look, it's the same colour as the stuff to its right. So we're turning our wet grass into dry grass. And you have to ted it. I could leave that wet grass, and all that's going to happen with the wet grass, if you leave it long enough, it's just going to rot away. If you want to make hay with it, you've got to turn it into dry grass first, which is what we're doing now. So we're making our wet grass into dry grass, and then what should happen is over the next little while with the wind and the heat, the sun, this dry grass here and what is now dry grass here will turn into hay, which is an even lighter colour. So it's added in that extra one. We've got a lighter colour, and to be honest with you, it's somewhere between straw and the old hay. It's you know, this is the old hay, so it's between this and straw is the new hay setting. I know it seems confusing, but I'm trying to make it as clear as possible. Okay, so what we've got to do now is leave this, and hopefully we'll see it turn into hay. That's the plan. Typically it changed from dry grass into hay overnight. Of course it did, which you just saw. And I wake up this morning and it's pouring down with rain, because what I was going to do was do a cut of dry grass to show you the difference between dry grass and the hay. This grass now is too wet. If I cut that now at 23%, that'll come out as wet grass. Fantastic. But I think you can see this is almost a straw colour. This is the new hay. This is the hay colour. What I've got to do now is get this off the ground. I've got to get it windrowed and picked up, or windrowed and baled, because this is going to start to degrade. Because it's raining, it will start to rot. That's got to be sorted out. So I'm going to do that now. But with the rain pouring down, I decided to cut some more wet grass. But what I will show you is you can bale wet grass. So you don't have to worry about it being dry grass to bale it. You can, if you're just going to do grass and you want to turn it into silage, you can bale wet grass. That's not a problem. So what I'm going to do is get a full bale of that. I'll grab the wrapper and we'll wrap it. Because unlike the regular game, if you wrap a grass bale in the base game, it becomes a silage bale immediately. If you wrap a grass bale with seasons on, it needs to ferment. It takes time to do that, and I'll show you that with the wopster, and I'll show you the hay bales in a second as well. I was hoping the rain was going to stop, but it doesn't look like it's going to. Got a bit of thunder and lightning. Now this kind of also highlights another important point. If you are going to be making hay, you really do need to keep an eye on the weather forecast, and when I had a look at the weather forecast, it didn't show rain when I first checked it, but it does also show how unpredictable it can be. It's something that Realismus decided they wanted to do, having varying things. They didn't want, or what they were trying to do was get away from that Groundhog Day of playing the base game where every day can seem a bit repetitive. They wanted it to be different and throw in all these different weather patterns and all these things that can change the way you do things. It's a game changer. It changes the way you play the game. It's designed specifically to do that. So anyway, I'll get these done. Once I've got a couple of bales, we'll I might not even get two, I might only get one. We'll wrap the bale and we'll have a look at that with the wopster as well, saying as this is all about grass handling. Okay, so before I wrap this, I'm going to turn on the wopster, and that says grass 4,000 litres. If I leave that long enough, that will start to degrade. That 4,000 litres will drop to 3,995, 3,990, 3,985, and we will start losing that unless you get it wrapped fairly quickly. The hay left out, we'll do exactly the same thing. Now what I was going to do is just show you these with the wopster as well. These look like straw bales. Look at the colour of them. But with the wopster, hay 4,000 litres. These have been out in the rain for a little while. They're still saying 4,000 litres, but they do need to be taken off the field. They do need to be put inside, and they'll be fine under cover once they're put under cover. But again, just highlighting the facts with the new system, with the added step in there, what was grass is now wet grass. What was hay is now dry grass. What looks like straw is now hay. The straw bales aren't far off this. They're a little bit lighter. But it kind of gives you that indication. So what we'll do, wrap this, we'll check that with a wopster, and then I think we'll be done. It is good to know that even if it's pouring with rain and the ground is wet, you can still make silage bales, so that's not too bad. But the weather forecast and checking it all regularly, it's all going to play a very crucial part in everything you do. So, let's go and check it with our wopster again. So that says grass 4,000 litres. It's not saying silage yet because it does say underneath that 0.00% fermented. It hasn't fermented at all yet into silage. It's got 24 hours to go. It will take 24 hours for that to ferment into a silage bale. So like I say, that's a big difference. It's not automatically a silage bale. It's going to take some time to ferment, just like when you put grass into a bunker silo, compact it and cover it. It will take a little while to ferment. I hope you found this useful and informative, a little bit on grass handling and the new multi-step system that's been put in place. If you have, give us a like. If you don't subscribe yet, please do. If you want to leave a comment, feel free. And if you want to share this video, then please be my guest. Whatever you should choose to do. Thanks for watching.